Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific North, fresh from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
I don't know how to feel about these Mariners, baby.
I don't think anyone knows how to feel. I think that we've come to the point in the season where we can see the writing on the walls. If they can make a run to the playoffs, I think people will get excited, but kind of resigned to the fact on missing the playoffs again, just having that, marinerness in your heart. You're ready to
Yeah,
be let down just a little bit.
yeah. It's been a wild ride, dude. It's been a
But
wild ride.
before we get into parts of that wild ride, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that is going to talk about the Mariners right now, that'd be me, your boy Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that is also going to talk about the Mariners right now,
Right
look
now.
for a guy like Kane.
Yeah, I'm Kane. You can find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it, freaking do it. All right, so Mariners. Um,
The Mariners are currently sitting at a 51% win rate, which is 3% below Mein Führer Jerry's goal for year in, year out. Where the Mariners sit right now, they're currently playing against the Yankees. They are currently down where they sit as we're recording at this very minute. They are 4.5 games out of the division race with Houston, and they are 2.5 games behind the Twins in the wild card standings.
yep.
So, Kane, my question to you, we could go, it's been a little sporadic, I think, for both of us with the Mariners because of the frustrations that have happened.
Yeah.
Technically, they're still in the playoff race. Do
And
you
one thing.
feasibly think that they will make the playoffs?
Well, one thing I want to throw in here before I give my answer, right, is kind of seems that I thought I saw a report that basically in the last 3 weeks the Mariners have been the third best offense in Major League Baseball, just off run production and everything. Um, Hitting has looked better at times, not all the time. I mean, they had a pretty decent road trip, had an all right homestand. I don't. I think a lot of things have to be perfect. Um, Houston's inevitable. They are. They had a really rough start. Caught fire. Yes, they did this all without Kyle Tucker all year long, but they caught fire at the right time. Pitchers kind of locked in.
Well, and the
They
Mariners
don't.
just kind of epically fell apart. It's not like
Well,
they started off poor and have gotten above average, but they haven't
right.
been extremely great all year.
No, and when they were great, whoa, how great were the times, right? How fun was it when they were winning, when they were 10 games up, and then to slowly get my heart stomped on and trampled on a million ways from Sunday, right? I just don't think this team has the drive. Polanco, horrible at bats lately. Mitch Garver, yeah, every time he plays, something kind of happens, but not enough play time. Victor Robles goes down. You don't know how long he's out for. He's been
And
your
he
best
made a
hitter,
knucklehead mistake
of
last night.
course, but
Hair inexcusable.
now his
Inexcusable.
hand, right, and his hand can't hold a bat today.
He
So
can hold
that's
it. He just can't swing it. He just can't grip the bat. He can
I
hold it.
I get it, I guess, right? But per reports from Jude and everybody, like we don't know how long this is gonna be. JP's not been good this year. Mitch Haniger's been very flighty. Julio has been your best player as of late.
Oh, he's been phenomenal.
He has been phenomenal, but it can't just be Julio, right?
It
It
hasn't
need
been.
no, but
It's been Cal Raleigh. It's been Luke Rayleigh. It's been Justin Turner. It's been Randy Arozarena.
Right. But in the grand scheme of things, Julio's the one last night. Let's put that out there for an example, right? He went 3 for 5 on the night, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And everybody else had gotten a hit, had one.
Yeah, it wasn't the best night. And you're
Right.
going up against the Yankees right now, which their hitters are something else. They're out of this world. Their pitching staff does enough. If you can get to that bullpen, big blowout loss last night. Probably it was Woo's worst start of this year. I'm not going to say of his career because he got walloped pretty bad last year in his first outing against Texas, but definitely his worst start of the year.
Yeah,
But
it was worse than the Atlanta start. But
yeah,
I just don't think this team has the drive. I think they're gonna deflate a little bit. I think you really sit there and hopefully ownership's eyes kind of open to see that all-time collapse and another year of failed baseball, leading the league in strikeouts, everything you try to eliminate. And I do hope that they open the payroll. I really do. They need it. We need it as fans. There is a small window for this team to make it, but it has to be perfect. Uh, what are your thoughts, Coach?
I ultimately think that they are going to miss the playoffs on like the last day of the year. Is there options for them to get in? Yes, but it's difficult because you'll have the tiebreaker over Houston. You have especially they'd have to win all three against Houston at Houston, but the Mariners have the season series against the Astros, so they would have a tiebreaker there, which they started off super hot against the Astros. It's been okay ever since, but they started off so hot. And if they sweep the last series, they have the tiebreaker. The tough thing with that is sitting with 11 games to go, 10 after tonight, and you're 4 back. You win the 3 against them, you still have to make up ground. So
Yes.
I think Houston does have some tougher opponents. I think that they have the Yankees on the docket next,
So
and Yankees, as we saw last night, can really put a wall up on you. So that's a route I think that it's not as likely. It's easier to get into the wild card race, but you've got a couple of factors working against you right now. The good thing is the Twins are kind of been in free fall mode for the last week and a half. Problem is Detroit's above you in those standings as well, and they've been playing some pretty good ball and have been racking up some wins. So, and the Royals are 1 game, 2 games up of the Twins for that second
yes.
wild card spot. And I think that the Tigers are a game up of the Mariners in the standings. Red Sox going in today, I believe we're 2 behind the Mariners. So you've got a pretty good bunch there. The issue is you have to beat those teams outright because you lost the season series to the Twins, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Red Sox. So you have to be a game above them to make the playoffs. So in theory, you gotta make up 3 games
And
over the
this is
Twins.
all without Luis Castillo too.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think gives me some pause is because yes, the offense has been producing more lately. It has been good. The problem is your starters have logged a ton of innings this year. You've got your workhorses in Castillo, Kirby, and Gilbert, who are typically going deeper into games. You've got Castillo down, which probably puts him out for the rest of the year unless they make the playoffs. Emerson Hancock has done all right, but the problem is your bullpen. You've got a bunch of arms in the bullpen, but especially it's tough to get to your leverage guys. Colin Snyder's kind of filled in as a leverage guy this year. Munoz has been lights out after his week of rest that where he didn't need to pitch. Austin Voth has shown you some good things, but some of these arms are kind of wearing down a little bit. You look at some of the guys early in the year, Trent Thornton, Taylor Saucedo, who were dominant at the beginning of the year, their ERAs have ballooned up quite a bit as we've gone along. So the problem that I see that makes it more difficult is you've got Emerson Hancock in your starting rotation. That's a dip from Luis Castillo. The
This
tax that's gone onto your starter's arm, it's going to be tougher to get into games. And can your bullpen keep that lead? I think if you get it to Munoz, you're in a very good spot. But it seems like as it happens more often than not to be with the Mariners, when you have an epic outing from a starting pitcher, I'll point to the game in St. Louis where Logan Gilbert gives up 2 hits in the 7th inning, I believe. One's a single and one's a home run. Complete game 2-hitter, gave up 2 runs. The Mariners mustered up 4 hits and couldn't put a run across the board with him throwing the absolute epitome of a game. And then when you look at the games, Mariners have been getting a little bit more run scoring lately, which is great, but those games are still being close, right? The Mariners have the best record when they score over 5 runs. They're doing it more often lately, but they're giving you some room for pause because the games are like, I've seen some 9-7 scores out there, which usually if they're scored 9, you're good to go. Stamp it, double stamp it, no races, you're good to go. But it seems like when the hitting's up, pitching's down. When the pitching's up, the hitting's down. And it's just one of those things that makes you want to beat your head against the wall. And it's Mariners baseball, baby.
right, and it's just been so frustrating. Like tonight, right? It's single or a walk, hit into a fielder's choice, or a double play, or swing at a crazy strike three when there are people on base. Like they've had runners in scoring position multiple nights in a row. I believe they had 8 or 9 hits last night. Couldn't do anything with it.
One run.
Uh 2 runs. They had two
Oh, sorry, I
runs.
turned it off before then.
I didn't even watch it. I was spending time with my family. I just got dinner,
It's
saw
probably
the
a lot more
scores.
fulfilling than watching 11-2 Mariners
I'll
loss.
tell you, my night was a little bit better that I didn't have to stress about the team. And this is a team that outside of mid-week day games, I've watched every inning this year, just about, right?
Yep.
And I swear this team is taking like 10 years off of my life.
Yeah, I mean, it's the typical things. They're not as clutch as they have been in the past in those close games, but it's the age old adage. They're competitive enough to be there for a playoff team. I don't think that they're competitive enough to win a World Series right now. They could get hot enough. They've shown it, right? We can see it, but it's just those areas of cool down and some. Granted, their cooldown hasn't been crazy. I think they had a 4 game losing streak like twice this year. But it's, those 2 and 3 game losing streaks where you only put one win in the middle that really just kind of sucks a little bit of life out of the fan
Yeah.
base. And I think that looking across Twitter and just feeling the vibe, the Mariners, everyone's kind of resigned to it's going to be another year and we'll see what happens. I've seen a lot of people say Soto's the generational player that would be the right fit at the right time coming up in free agency that the
Give
Mariners will
him
have
give him the
zero
moon and back.
interest in making an offer.
Yeah, somebody's giving him the moon and the back.
Yeah.
To the moon and back. And I mean, what a season he's put up. He hit his 40th home run last night.
Yeah.
Like,
He's
and he's
got
and he's
he's
what,
got more
24?
he has more war than the Mariners entire starting outfield.
Right.
It's crazy.
And they're not gonna do anything. It's
No,
like
and
with
it's
Shohei.
frustrating,
It was like
but
with Shohei.
well, yeah, it is what it is. We're not going down that route today.
I
That's
know.
something for the off season. But before we get to the off season, there's a couple of guys that are under contract with this team or have their contracts expiring at the end of this year. And I want to get your take on whether one, you think they'll be back with the Mariners next year, and two, do you want them back with the Mariners next year? And the first guy that I'm going to start with was a guy that we were all pretty high on at the start of the year. And that guy's going to be Mitch Garver. Do you think Mitch Garver on opening day is back on this team?
See, this is the this is really tough, right? Because you've seen glimpses of what he can do, right? And it kind of just seems that every other year is just kind of not a good year for him. So you're kind of I do hope that we have Mitch Garver back. I do.
So
Um
you want him back.
I want him back. Do I think he'll be back? No. No. I like him. I like him being Kirby's catcher. Um they seem to have a pretty good connection. I can see why maybe Cal might not want to catch for him. Uh just the mentality and Furious George. I think George just wants to throw what George wants to throw. Uh
I don't think anyone really shakes off Calix's.
no, nobody shakes
I
off
did say
Cal.
this. I did say this to someone today, and I think that it's maybe one of the most true statements that I've ever said is Cal Raleigh is who we thought Mike Zanino was going to be. Right? We
Yeah.
were resigned to the fact that the average wasn't going to be high, but he's going to be an extremely good defensive catcher, and you expect him to put the ball out of the ballpark and get RBIs. I think every year with Zanino, we started out like, okay, he's going to be a 30 home run guy. He's going to have 90 RBIs. He's going to bat, 250. And then we would bring all those totals down until we were like, I feel really great because of his defensive abilities and catching a game. If he can hit 200 and hit 15 home runs and have 50 RBIs, Cal Raleigh sitting here right now, just above 200, 30 homers on the year, and I believe 93 or 94 RBIs. He is what we envision, and he's throwing everybody out. He should
Yes.
be in the conversation for Gold Glove, as well as Josh Rojas.
Yes. But back to Mitch Garver. Um,
Sorry, little tangent.
it's fine. I do like him. He is a veteran. He is a postseason, you know, presence there, right? I think he's a great clubhouse guy. I think everybody on the team has rallied around him pretty well. But statistically, I do not think that he can be on this team next year. What do you think, Coach?
I'm the exact opposite of you. I do think that he will be on the team because I think it's going to be tough. I know that people have seen his tape throughout the years. You can kind of see what Teoscar has done this year with the Dodgers. Being able to take him on in trade, which would basically result in a salary dump, but if you have a team that's more willing to spend that has at bats available at the primary DH role and a whole backup catcher, it does make some sense. Do I
Mm,
want him back with the Mariners? I don't.
that's fair.
And the reason being, it's nothing against Mitch Garver. When he came out and talked about the fans attacking him personally, I thought was complete BS. But I just don't think that this has been a good headspace situation, headspace type year. I don't know if an off season and then getting back into spring training is going to right that ship. And
Probably
with a
not.
team that is as cash strapped as the Mariners, to be paying over
10
$10
million.
million to a backup catcher is not something that this team needs right now. Do
No.
you have some guys in the minors that can step, can Cal Raleigh, you don't want him to catch as many games as he's catching. If you open up some of those DH type at bats, you can have the luxury of potentially bringing up a Harry Ford who is more athletic than Cal Raleigh is, has good numbers at throwing out base runners, but you can kind of ease him in under the tutelage and kind of run a little bit more of a platoon without taking at bats away from Cal Raleigh, right? You can put him in that DH spot, get him some rest because he's done good work in the DH spot, but you can't do it all the time unless you're going to have another guy on roster that can catch. Luckily, you have some versatility because Harry Ford's done a little bit of experimenting in the outfield if you needed to, but I don't love my two primary catchers being catcher and DH in a game because we saw what can happen when your starting catcher gets hurt and now your lineup is a zoo. It's like we're playing National League Baseball before the DH was implemented. Just
Yeah.
bonkers.
Yeah. That's fair, though. That's fair.
All right. The next guy that I've got is Jorge Polanco.
And
But
he's been
he has a team option they can pick up, which I think will put him at about $12 million for next year.
I after watching a whole season of him. There's been little chunks of greatness in there. The effort's not there. Uh, at bats are sloppy. I He was one of my favorite players before this year. I mean, he can still be a great player, probably not with Seattle. I don't want him back. I don't think he's gonna be back. 12 million is a lot to spend on a guy who hit around 200, who was more of a league average type of guy, and put the ball out of the park at a decent clip, and he hasn't done that. And here goes our carousel at second again. Is it going to be Ryan Bliss? Is it going to be someone else they bring in free agency? Uh, it's just a ever revolving door, and I don't know if it's ever going to get fixed. So, Coach Red, what are your thoughts? Do you want Jorge Polanco back?
I do not, and I don't think that he'll be back. There was a point in time a couple weeks ago when he caught
Right
fire.
after when he came back from injury.
Yeah, looked great, and then he's kind of cooled off again, right? I
Yeah.
think that I would feel comfortable running out a platoon type with Dylan Moore and with Ryan Bliss. You also have that added protection where if you go and make a play for a third baseman, there's not really much out there. Rojas has the ability to play second base as well. I think Rivas will probably stick around in the minors. I don't think that he's going to have that. So you could have some injury protection, especially if you're going to run out that lineup. So I think that if the Mariners are really being smart about things and are going to make a play and trying to get the most bang for their buck, because if they're going to spend money, I think that they're really going to spend money on their own guys. We look at the young core guys.
Kind of have
Julio's
to.
already been played, but you've got
Cal Raleigh.
Kirby, Cal Raleigh, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu.
I think your top priority is Cal Raleigh. The
Well, we've already
ship
talked about that. We're
is,
not talking
yeah.
about Colorado
Okay.
extensions. We're not talking about that anymore. We already talked about
All
that.
right. All right. You gonna go on a tangent. Whatever. I
But
get it.
yeah, but my tangent was new. This was a tangent that we talked about like I don't know how many
Uh,
episodes ago, but it
it was a
wasn't that
long
many
time
Mariners
ago.
episodes ago.
It was a while
We've
ago.
taken some breaks from Mariners episodes due to our mental health. So it's only been like probably
it's,
two Mariners episodes before.
it's true.
All right. Next guy that I want to talk about is Luke Rayleigh.
100% back. I love Luke Rayleigh's energy. He can play first base. I don't care. I love Luke Rayleigh. I think what he's done this year as mostly a full-time starter has been amazing. Every time the dude hits the ball, he blazes out of the box. The dude's got some crazy power. Every time he gets hit by a pitch, he just shrugs it off, goes to first, is just like, huh? What happened? But I love Luke Rayleigh. I want him back so bad. Coach
Do,
Red,
do you think that he'll be back?
yes, 100%. I think you could get him on a cheap deal. He's 31. I mean, hasn't been a very good player. He's only been in the bigs a couple of years anyway. I think you can pay him probably a 5 to 7 million per year type of deal. Kind of the same thing you were giving Victor Robles to play a first base for you, and a pretty decent first base at that.
It's been a little bit rockier the last couple weeks, but I
Decent.
get what you're saying.
It's decent.
Yeah.
you know, Coach Red, what are your thoughts?
I want Luke Rayleigh also back, maybe 101%, just
It's
because of the
20 bombs,
constant
dude.
effort that you see. I love the position versatility. When you look at the first base free agent market, it's really Pete Alonso and Christian Walker. Do I think the Mariners are going to be players for either of those? I do not. Yes, you have Tyler Locklear in the wings, who I think will start the year on the big club. But Luke Rayleigh's a perfect fourth/fifth outfielder because he does give you that infield outfield versatility. Yes, I
Yes.
think that more time, especially in the offseason, practicing at first base, knowing that he's going to be a primary first baseman would be a big plus to him, especially defensively. We know the athleticism that he brings, but there's a couple of ground balls that he should have made some plays on that he did not. So I think a
Mhm.
little extra reps could increase that.
Of
And I think
course.
that's the tough thing is there's not really a lot out there to go that I think the Mariners will pursue via a signing. And I think the only way that
And
they don't re-sign him is if they somehow can swing a deal for Vladdy and work on extending him.
and let's be real. I mean, I believe he's hitting around 250,
He is
20
sitting around
bombs,
250, 20 bombs. His RBI total is a little bit lower than I'd
but
like to see. I think it's sub 60, but there was a lot of
the
time where he was batting
Mariners.
earlier in the year, batting very low in the lineup with not a lot of people on in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then, it seems like his RBI total just keeps going up, keeps hitting bombs. Love to see
Well,
it.
the other thing that a lot of people have pointed out, the other thing I really like about Luke Rayleigh, and you can tell how invested he is into this team and his teammates. On every walk-off, he's the first person to greet
Yes.
the walk-off, except on Cal Raleigh's homer. He might have snuck through because they were crowded around home plate on that walk-off grand slam. But the dude is everything you want in a teammate.
Kind of like a Victor Robles type of
Well,
dude.
a little different.
But
Victor
yeah,
Robles is a little bit more fun, but like Luke Rayleigh is the workhorse and the epitome of what you want in a teammate.
he's it's like he's the fun dad.
Yeah, but he's also gonna go out there and chop wood for 5 hours just to make sure that there's firewood available for the cold nights.
That one's good. That one's
It's
really good.
true. All right. The next player I want to talk about is, do you think that Austin Voth is back on this team next year?
much did we how much do we pay him this year?
I believe it was 8 million.
I mean, he has shown flashes, but it also hasn't been the greatest. Um, do I think he'll be back? No. Do I want him back? Not really. I think you have some other arms down in AAA. Carlos Vargas, who still isn't on this team. It's kind of baffling to me, but I think you have a spot for him. Troy Taylor has looked very, very good. You have Matt Brash back next year. You
Gregory Santos.
Gregory Santos. I preferably Colin Schneider. Um, maybe Trent Thornton if you know you don't get so many innings out of him in a year. But I do not want Austin Voth back. He was a big part of that 10-game skid into the losing 15 to the Astros in that span. A lot of high leverage situations that he was put in that he did not succeed in. So no, I do not want him back. I don't think he'll be back. 8 million is a lot to spend on a relief pitcher that's not going to be very good for you. And if you want to bring him back, you probably got to pay him a little bit more. So don't want it. Coach Red, what about you?
I'm a yes,
Okay.
bring him back, and yes, I think he'll be back. Here's the reason: they paid him $8 million, I believe, this year. I think that he's going to come at a lower clip because,
You would hope
uh,
so.
and the other thing is, there's been a lot of pretty high leverage situations that he's pitched pretty well in. The reason I want to bring him back, he's a former starter. He does have 3+ pitches: the fastball, slider, and the curve.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that has wicked movement. And I would prefer him in the Trent Thornton type role, right? Kind of that long relief role, because yes, there's going to be injuries and he could work his way into some of those leverage situations. But where he thrived a lot was in lower leverage situations. To be able to put him in a spot where he'd be, primary low to mid with the
Mm-hmm.
potential to run a couple times out there in high leverage, I like that role for him a lot more than the role that he was thrust into this year. And I
That's
think that
fair.
he could excel in that role. And that's the thing about relievers is there's so many of them that you've never heard of, and they come on your team and you either love them or you hate them, and then they go somewhere else and it's just a cliff note, right? They didn't
Mm-hmm.
do anything. And you don't know about other guys. So I prefer the devil I know than the devil I don't.
There, I just feel like there's some guys down in the minor league systems that you might see up here next year, instead of Austin Bug. So
I could see that. All right, we got two more left.
okay,
The first one is Mitch Haniger. Do you
No,
think he's back? Do you want him back?
as much as I love Mitch Haniger, the dude has been nothing but awesome for Seattle, right? He has been the ultimate Mariner his entire career. The fans love him. He loves the fans. He loves this city. But god damn it, 19 million is a lot to spend on a dude who's not very good anymore.
So you don't think he's going to be on the team with that 19 million that's a player option? Do you think it's because he declines that option, or do you think that the Mariners are able to trade him?
I think the Mariners might be able to finagle something, dude. Jerry does some weird stuff. Sorry, I almost slipped there. Um, I love Mitch, dude. I love Mitch. But he's also got to realize, unless he can restructure a deal, I don't know if that can ever happen in Major League Baseball, not like it does in the NFL, right? But he's got to realize too, like, I get it, 19 million, that's a lot of money, but if he wants this dude to succeed, 19 million he needs to go somewhere else.
Well, he's not going to see that anywhere else. That's why he would accept the player
I'm
option.
aware. I forgot that he had one for a second, but Jerry can try to trade him, then that means he's probably going to be back with his team, and that's kind of unfortunate. He's had some good moments this year, but not enough.
Yeah, I think that. Do I think that he'll be back? Yes. Do I want him back? Yes.
But
But
no,
but not in the role that he's currently in. I want him to retire and then become a Mariners city liaison because he would be phenomenal in that role. Basically around the team all the time, kind of like Ichiro is, but be
yeah,
more present to the community and to the fan base because I think that it would be extremely solid for that. But I think at some point, especially as you've gone down the stretch, right? There's been less and less at bats for Mitch Haniger, especially after the trade deadline and the emergence of Luke Rayleigh and Justin Turner turning it up, right?
yeah,
So it's been tougher. And he's typically a guy who's mashed lefties, but he's hitting righties better than he's hit lefties this year, which is not a good sign for a platoon bat, which is basically what he would amount to. The thing I wonder, especially if they bring back a guy with versatility like Luke Rayleigh, is your starting outfield set where, on a given day it could be Robles or Luke Rayleigh if he's not playing first base, right? So with Mitch Haniger, the big question is you could decline the player option like Yusei Kikuchi did, where he knew that he wasn't going to be that premier guy. He got sat down the stretch, bet on himself, and went somewhere else. I could see Mitch Haniger potentially declining it just to get regular play time because he's a guy that's going to get, maybe one start a week, maybe six at bats a week when you start the season next year. So I don't know if he's going to want that role, but I would love for him to continue if it happens next year or doesn't or down the road, continue his baseball path with something that's involved with the Mariners because I think that we've all really gravitated towards Mitch at different points. And the guy
yes,
still has a little bit of clutch left in him. He's got a couple walk-offs this year, right? So he still
yes.
has that. He's a
A,
professional.
a
He's a professional baseball
19
player.
million for a dude that's gonna play once a week. Not it, Chief.
Well, there's not much you could do because
I
you wanted to
know.
get out of the Robbie deal, so
I know.
you deal with it.
I know.
All right, the last guy I got is a guy that is under contract to be on this team. Currently has a no trade clause, but that no trade clause is gone at the end of this year. The guy I ask is Luis Castillo. Do you want him on this team? Do you think he'll be on this team?
I don't want him on this team, and I do not think he'll be on this team. It frees
He
up
acted
money.
disgusted.
Dude, it's so night and day from last year. So bad. I mean, he was on a stretch of where he was giving up a home run a start. This is the most home runs he's given up in, I believe, in a year. And in like 3 starts, he gave up 8. Like that's
Mhm.
nuts, dude. For your quote unquote ace and workhorse for the and his fastball's down, his sinker's down, his slider's down. Like nothing's working this year for him. And I think yes, you're not paying him like the crazy amount. I don't even think you're paying Robbie Ray that much either. Um, I believe it's what 20.
Robbie Ray was a top $5 contract in Mariners
Oh,
history.
oh, sorry. Um, Luis Castillo, what is 20 something
Yep.
around there?
I think you'd
Um,
have 2 years left under contract.
and somebody's gonna eat that up. Somebody's gonna eat that up for a 4 or a 5 starter in their rotation. They will eat that up. They will overpay, and we will be a happy fan base. Coach Red, give me your thoughts on this.
Do I want Luis Castillo back on this team? I say no, but it's with a caveat. The only reason I don't want him back on this team is you look at not even starting pitchers on the same level as Luis Castillo, because Luis Castillo is still going to go out and get innings. He's still going to ramp up the strikeouts, and his ERA is still going to be right there with the rest of them, right? He doesn't feel like an ace because what we've seen at times from Gilbert, Kirby, Miller, and Wu, who have all shown absolutely lights out stuff, and you haven't seen it as consistently. You get a little bit spoiled when you witness greatness from 60 feet, 6 inches away almost every single night. So it really
Yeah,
stands out. If you insert him on another team, everyone's happy as a clam, like you said. But I think the prospect haul that you can get, because as we've seen, it's tougher to get free agent hitters here. I think that you're going to need to make a deal where you are going to have to give up a lot of blue chip prospects. I think that if you can trade away Luis Castillo, get 2, potentially 3 top 100 prospects, package 1 or 2 of them with 1 or 2 of the guys that are in the Mariners top 50 in all of baseball, I think that that can go get you
a
another
big time
player.
bat.
And I think that the bat is more important because when you look at this team and the stud potential that the other 4 starters who I've mentioned, if Emerson Hancock is your 5,
It's all right. I'm all
Emerson
right with
Hancock
it.
could be a 5 for most teams in Major League Baseball,
I would just like
right?
to see his strikeouts bump up just a sketch.
Or not. I'd love to see him pitch to contact more and go deeper into games. Actually, that's what I would prefer. I don't care if his strikeouts tick up at all, but to have that and then add another piece of offense when you will have a Rose Arena, Rodriguez, Robles in the outfield. You're gonna have JP probably still back at shortstop. You've got Cal. You have some combo of Demo and Ryan
Whoever.
Bliss. You got Locklear and Rayleigh in this scenario. And then I think your big hole that you fill is third, because I love the defense of Rojas, but the stick hasn't been as
It just
consistent
fell.
this year.
It fell apart.
So there's rooms to improve. So if you can go make that guy that can come on this team, and preferably a lower strikeout type guy. But if you can go make a play and that has to be done via trade, I think that's how you get it done, is by trading Luis Castillo.
I do
Do I
think
think that Luis Castillo will be on this team? I do think that he will be, for the simple fact that
they got to do
he's the
something.
least attractive guy out of their starting 5 when it comes to deals. There's going to be someone that could want to make a deal, but you're going to get more glitz and glam for any of the other 4. Is your prospect haul for Luis Castillo going to be on par with what we gave up for him? I think so, maybe even better, because
Yeah,
the starvation for quality starting pitchers is out there. And then when you look at the Mariners, they do have a guy like Taylor Dollard, who was unfortunately out with injury for this year. That's a guy that was looked at that was right on the verge with Hancock as well last year on who they were going to call up. So,
mhm.
although your overall depth is different, it's easy to go get a older veteran type starter to stopgap some stuff for you if needed.
I mean, look
So,
at what the Astros had to give up to get Yusei Kikuchi, who had like a 4.5 ERA on the year.
well, the Astros decided we're going to win almost every game for him after the trade
You
deadline
know
to
what?
make our GM look good.
I get it, but the prospect haul was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, it was. And like that's why um I think that he'll probably be back because they don't think they'll get the value, especially when other teams are calling in the trade packages you see for the other four. I could see it. And if he is back, I'm not mad at it at all. He would probably clock in at your 3 or 4 starter because I think you still want to limit the bullets that are coming out of Brian Woo's arm right now.
Of
But
course.
what you've seen from Bryce Miller since July has been nothing short of astounding. You know what you have in Kirby, you know what you have in Gilbert. I think that those guys all tick above him. And if Luis Castillo is your 4th starter and probably your 5th best in your rotation next year, it's
Not
scary.
bad.
Now you
It's
just
not
need the
bad.
offense to complement it.
Right. Exactly. That's why a lot of the talk around is one pitcher will be gone next
Okay.
year.
It's all the players that we're talking about. But
Yeah.
I do have one more thing.
One more thing. Oh,
Rumors are out that Dave Sims might be taking over as the radio broadcaster for the
did see
Yankees.
that.
Kane, do you want Dave Sims back? Do you think he'll be back?
Hell no. Hell no. No. He can take his little golf hats to New York. He can go say, you
Hey
know,
now, hey now, hey now.
there you go, Judge. There you go. We would really need a home run here, and you know what? He might get it. He
Yeah, it's true.
might get almost every home run call that he begs for. Like I'm tired of hearing him. And you know what? The last couple of weeks of the broadcast have not been great. Angie Mentank, not fun. Not fun at all.
I like her. I like her when she's peppered in. I do not like her on the main broadcast, mainly because I feel like since she's not on it a ton, she feels like she has to talk the whole game out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on, I gotta talk. Which I love when she peppers in little things throughout the broadcast, but full on, I it's too much for
I have
me.
to mute it. I have to mute it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I do not want Dave Sims. I mean, his home run calls are not very good. You you got Goldie back when he had potential job offers last year to be what the full time guy, and he just loves being with the Mariners. I want Goldie in the broadcast booth. 162. He's so good in there. His energy is electric. Every home run call is fantastic. And yeah, get out of here with the hey now, hey now, hey now, or Justin Turner's grand slam. Oh, there you go.
Hey now. Chill out, bud.
First home run at T-Mobile Park is a grand slam by your new acquisition at the deadline, and it's oh, there you go. What kind of shit is that?
There it is.
Coach Red, do you want Dave Sims back, or do you think he'll be back?
I don't think that he'll be back. Yankees is a dream job, especially from him being on the East Coast. And I've gotten better with Dave Sims over the years, but he's still not my favorite. But I do think that this is a good thing for him. I think that his style of calling a game is better suited for radio than it is for the broadcast booth now. And I know he's been doing it for a long time and he has had some tremendous calls, right? I can give him that. But the constant begging for home runs, the up and down that you see with him a little bit more lately, it's not my favorite. And
It's just been bad this year.
do I
It's
want him
not been
back?
good.
My answer is also no. And it's very similar to yours. When the Mariners are on a national broadcast like Fox or FS1, Goldsmith gets put on that with their roaming color guy
Yeah.
every time that the Mariners are on there. I think that with Goldie, it's his time to shine. I think that he's a better personality for
TV.
TV than he is for radio, especially because you have Riz on the radio. And I do actually enjoy on the radio when it's Riz and Sims because it just feels like old school baseball, right? That you
Yeah,
grew up on. But I think with Goldsmith, he brings you so much energy. He peppers little things in there that throw you off every once in a while too. He'll say
every
some crazy
broadcast.
stuff, but I'm all for it. And a guy that sits there and goes, ho, 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 what a silly hack. Like the guy knows baseball speak in today's game, right? Or at
Yeah,
least from when I was growing up. Love saying the word hack, right?
yeah.
And so I think that this is an opportunity to get him closer to home, to get him to a job that he aspired to. And I hope that he gets it. And it opens the path to have Goldsmith on the call every single night on TV, where I think he should be. I think he's earned that. I'm not sure whether he stepped out because he didn't think he'd get the Cardinals job or if he was just resigning because that was his dream job growing up as a kid, right? But I love everything that Goldsmith brings to the plate. And I have more of appreciation now for Dave Sims than I did have in the past. But I would prefer Goldsmith every day of the week over Sims. So
I
I
mean,
hope that
dude,
he goes, but I also would be extremely happy for him.
when it is Blowers and Sims, it just feels weird. But Goldie and Bowers, fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of Dave Sims. I haven't been for years. Uh, I get it. He's a wonderful story. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he's done many of great things in his very long life. Lots of good memories,
So are
lots
you
of good
writing an
stories.
obituary right now?
Yeah, with his career with the Mariners, Tuna freaking Lou. Um, but yeah, dude, it's declined year after year after year. I mean, the who called the drought? Was it Goldie or was
It
it
was Dave
Sims?
Sims. It was Dave Sims.
That one was good. That one was good.
Help bring me
Not
back on
much.
his side.
Not much since then. Not much since then.
Yep. And after you say toodaloo to this episode, why don't you hop on over to social media? Give us a little follow. Find me, your boy Coach Red, on X at the Real Coach Red, on Instagram at the Real _ Coach Red, TikTok at the Real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
Find me over on Twitter, Kane2406, TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us. Do it. Freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.